Hello everyone and welcome to Tremendous Tableau Tips. You've made it to the correct session where you learn all the new things you have to learn about Tableau. So we're bringing you plenty of tips. Some you may use every day, some you may use in very special occasions, but definitely something that will be of use to you to take your vizzing to the next level. Who are we? We are Heidi, Nyong and Tore. And we will be your guides for this tipping session today. So let's give you a quick intro. Nyong, tell us about yourself.
My name is Nhung. I come from Vietnam, but at the moment I'm working for the Information Lab Hamburg, and I have been using Tableau for 4 years now. I started this tip and trick season earlier this year, where Torge and I presented as a TC, and afterwards we had a few times presenting tips and tricks in different Tableau user groups. And Heidi and I was also in DataFam Slam in Germany this year, and I think it's a very nice way to wrap up the years to be with the two here in a section today. And then we have Torge.
Yes, I'm the Tableau Jedi from Norway. I'm an ambassador and a visionary, and I work in a company called Crayon Consulting in Bergen, on the west coast of Norway. Been doing these tip sessions with Heidi and Jung, of course, now, Annabelle earlier. And if you would like to have some stickers after with this handsome guy, just come over and I'll give you some, so you can get more tiny Tableau tips as well. And then, of course...
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Heidi Kalber. I'm an associate manager at Woodmark Consulting, a German consulting company, as the name suggests. I've been using Tableau for like 8 years now. This is my 6th year as a Tableau ambassador. I co-lead Rhineland Tableau user group, so if anyone lives in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, please feel free to join us. It's an in-person user group. And if you want to connect with me, please do. On the like in the dark blue QR code, you have my LinkedIn, Tableau Public, my blog, etc. So very valuable link for you. All right, so I'm going to head us off. And this is going to be a lot about bar charts because I'm very passionate about bar charts. So here I have the normal sales by subcategory. Everybody's done that like 20 times, I know. And I want to sort that. So sorting that, easy enough. But let's say I'm personally the product manager for anything to do with copiers, so I want copiers to always be at the top. The thing is, the moment I drag and drop something to sort manually, it's sorting everything manually. So if my data changes, for example, looking at a different year, you can see that the dynamic sort is gone. But I want everything to be sorted dynamically except for my one subcategory. So how can I do that? Well, I can just simply click on copiers, and then we can create a set. And this essentially just gives true and false values to all the elements. It just gives, a true value to my copiers, false to the rest. We don't really want to see that, so we can just hide the header. And the nice thing is, if I sort now, this sort will, well, that didn't work out as I thought it would. So this is amazing. So we can just sort that. Give me 1 second. There we go. We can sort category by field, descending. There we go. And if I now go to a different year, you can see that it does resort dynamically, but my copiers always stay at the top. It's a very helpful use case for sets. All right, more bar charts. There's going to be a bunch of them. I like to label my bar charts. You can label them on the outside end, or you can label them at the inside beginning. But what I would like to do is I would like to label them inside the bar, but at the very end of it. So how can I do that? Easy enough. I just get rid of the labels, first step, and then right-click on my axis to add a reference line. Now this will be per cell. There we go. I don't want the computation. I want to label using the value. Don't really need a tooltip. Definitely don't want a line, and also do not want them to recalculate. So all that's left to do is now I can click on the reference line, format, and then we just have to make sure we are not using any shading. We are aligning vertically in the middle, but horizontally on the left. And you can see that the numbers shift over to the inside end of the bar, and make sure we are using a color we can actually read. So now I've labeled on the inside end of the bar. Now, results may vary depending on how short your bars are, so use that carefully. But how about if I want to use that not for the numbers, but for example for the subcategory? I control drag my subcategory to label, but of course I can't label my my reference lines using anything other than their actual value. So we need a different solution here. Let's actually get rid of the labels for a moment. We control drag sum of sales next to itself, change that one to a Gantt bar, so you can see we only have the end of that. Don't even need a size, I just need the location. We can show the labels again and label on the left-hand side, and you can see where I'm going with this. Now we only need to make this a dual axis, right-click, synchronize, right-click, get rid of the header, and then we also don't really need to show this header anymore, so we are labeling again at the inside end of our bars. Is this super useful? Maybe not always, but it is a nice hack if you want to change up your visualization some way. All right, you could even, now that I'm thinking about it, you could even still label your other bars. So you have like subcategory inside and the value outside. I don't know, just thought it up. Okay, cool. I have a super long bar chart here. So we have many, many marks. How many marks? Well, you can always see that at the bottom left-hand edge of your screen. I don't know if people in the back can see that. So I know I have 800 rows and exactly one column. The thing is, I can't be bothered to scroll through all of these customers. I'm interested in the top customers of each segment. I still want to show all of the customers because that's what my clients want to see. They always want to see everything, and that's okay, but I want to see all the top performing customers per segment at the top. The thing is, if I move segment to columns, Tableau does this. It spaces out the elements in between because, of course, every customer is only part of one segment. So what can we do? Well, we can control drag sum of sales to labels. Let's actually give this a little bit more space so we can see what we're doing. We right-click and add a quick table calculation, and this will be the rank. So you can see it's ranking already. Let's just make sure it's really, really using the customer. So right-click, compute using the customer name. And what we can do now is we can right-click to make this discrete, move it to rows, and then move customer name to, for example, label. So now I have all my top performing customer in each segment next to each other, and we could even use the labeling tip I just showed you before to change the labels as we want them. All right, this one, not a bar chart to change things up. I'm looking at a line chart, looking at sales and profit, and of course my sales are far higher than my profits. I wish it was otherwise, but that's how it goes. So the question is, do I synchronize this or not? The units are identical, so this would be a good use case to synchronize, but maybe some of my end users are interested to see how does the trend compare with each other. So maybe some want to synchronize, some don't want to synchronize, and I don't want to take that decision from them because it just means they call me up all the time and say, hey Heidi, can you change that dashboard? And I don't want to. So I give them a choice. I give them a parameter to choose whether to synchronize or not. And because they can make a choice, I call this synchronize axis question mark, so they know they are prompted to take an action here. I change this to a Boolean and give this labels. So one is yes, synchronize, and the other is no, show separately. I don't know. Whatever works for you. We right-click to actually show this parameter, make sure that it's a single value list so we can see the values a little better. And what do I do now? I create a calculated field and call this synchronization line. Yeah, that works. Okay. And if I want to synchronize my axis, so user said, yes, please synchronize, then I want to use the maximum. Maximum of what? You can see, Okay, Tableau, don't abandon me. You can see that we can use the max function in two different ways. You may know it as an aggregation, so looking at multiple records within one column and giving us back the highest value of those. But we can also use it with two expressions, so Tableau compares those two columns to each other and gives us back the higher value. So what I want to compare is sum of sales with the sum of profit. So this will give me back the higher value. With these two, I know that sales will always be the higher value, so not a big change here. But if you do this with any other KPIs, this is the calculation you want. And then the rest is just end. We don't need an alternative. Now, what do I do with this? I drag that to detail, right-click on my axis, and add a reference line. Let's actually give this a line so we can see what we're doing in the background. There we go. Now, I don't want to use sum of profit for this line. I want to use my synchronization line. And I don't want the average. I definitely want this to be the maximum. So you can see it's at the highest element. Let's actually get rid of the label, get rid of the tooltip. I don't want to recalculate, and we will get rid of the line later. But you can already see what it's doing. It is showing the highest value of sales on the profit axis, which means it extends the profit axis. So if I say no show separately, the line vanishes because that's the alternative in my calculation. But if I do want to synchronize, it brings in the line, and we can now simply right-click, format, get rid of the line here, and no one will know how it works, but they are able to synchronize or show separately however they want. Same use case if we want to normalize values. So here I'm looking at sales in the US and Canada. We have far higher sales in Canada. And if I show them on the same axis, well, we can't really tell the trend for Canada, can we? So how would we be able to tell the trend? Well, let's control drag sum of sales here. And we can add a quick table calculation. Big fan of those. We can tell the percentage difference. Now, by default, this gives us the percentage difference to the previous period, but that's not what I'm interested in. I want this relative to the first period, because that just normalizes everything at the first period and then shows how did we perform in the following months or quarters compared to that. So how am I able to switch in between those two? Well, again, we just bring up a calculated field. I've already put in my parameter because you all know how to set up a parameter. And we call this, what do we call this? Normalized values flex to tell me this is flexible. So what do I want? If I want to normalize my axis, so yes, then I want this whole calculation. And I don't know how to write that complicated table calculation, but Tableau does. So I can just simply drag that from the rows shelf into my calculation, and Tableau gives me everything it needs to work here. Can't explain what it does, but I know it's the correct result, so I'm just happy leaving that as Tableau intended. Else, I just want the normal sum of sales, complete with end, and now I can get rid of one of these two and then bring in my normalized values flex measure, and I'm able to either normalize or show the normal values as my users are interested to see them. Do I have time for one more? We can squeeze in one more. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. All right, I'm looking at sum of sales and sum of profit and also the profit ratio because my users want to see the profit ratio. It's a good measure. For some reason, they didn't want the profit ratio as a bar. They just wanted it as text. And that's fine. I would just like to be able to highlight where my profit ratio is negative. I'm already coloring the sum of profit, so that's nice, but that's on the very right-hand side, and I wanted to have a big impulse in the beginning. So I want to show this is my profit ratio, and it's negative. So what can I do? Let's see if the internet is cooperative. It is not. That's all right. We prepared something. So fun thing is you can use Unicode characters. There's a bunch of special symbols. You saw Andy Cotgreave yesterday using the block, but there's also a couple of colored symbols that we can actually use. So for example, this colored orange ball that we have here. Now what do I do with that? I can just go to profit ratio, the other one, right click, default properties, and change the number format. Now, what does that do? It currently makes sure that my profit ratio is a percentage, but I can mix that up by going to custom. Now, this will put all my values in a percentage, and that's fine, but I want only my my positive values to show up as that. Put a semicolon, and then for my negative values, they should be minus 0.0%, of course. But in the front, I want an orange Unicode character to really highlight these are the negative values. So what will that look like? We will have this little icon in front of any negative character we have here. That's amazing. Of course, I could use a differently colored indicator for my positive values, but then that would just add clutter. So I strongly recommend only doing that for your negative values. And I think that's my time. So thank you so much. And I'll hand over to Jung.
Thank you, Heidi. So I don't know how many of you was in the DataFam Slam yesterday. I was the one who did the plane from Hamburg to London, and afterwards someone told me, it was a cool trick, but I don't know where can I find the use case for that. So I hope that today there will be some more practical tips that you can use in your everyday life. So Heidi just show you how to use Unicode in the to format the number. So here would be the other use case for that. Here I have some big number that shows the sales in 2024, and then I have the comparison with the year before. If I go to 2023, 22, I see that as well. But if I go to 2021, because I don't have any value to compare, the number won't show, but I see the PY here. The reason is that in the text, how I build this, that is the PY after the text, and now I can get rid of that. Okay, I don't see that anymore, but in 2024, I also don't see that anymore. So I can go to format in here, and then in number format, custom, and I can write PY in the end, so it show up in here, but if I go to the first year, you don't see anything. So sometimes it's very useful. For the next one, we have also a similar problem as Heidi showed before. Here I bring in the use case in an online shop. If I work in marketing, I want to analyze that. Here we have the numbers of people who click on our products, number of the people who add that to cart, and number of the people who buy. So the line in the end is very, very small, and we don't have two line chart, we have area chart, and we have more than two, so we can't use dual axis. So how can you zoom in the chart to see the number here? So with that, I need one parameter that will just will show a number for now, and I will show you later which number to choose. But important, we need one numeric parameter. And then if I double click on my axis, and then do custom in here, I can use our parameter to fix the end of the axis. So now, at the moment, it will show the max number. But if I want to zoom in this area, I can write 7,000, for example. So the chart will zoom in, and it's very easy to read the values down here. And if I want to go back, I just type the other values in here. And very important, I want the value, the first value when you open the workbook, to be the max value in here. So with that, we need an LOD calculation to say what is a max number, because when the new data comes in, that could change, and you don't want the chart to be cut up. And then when we have that LOD calculation, we want to use that here when the workbook opens, and we want that value to show first. All right, and then for the next one, if you was in the DataFam yesterday also, you will see this one, and now I will show you the other way how to use Unicode in that. So Andy showed in some cases that you can use Unicode instead of a bar chart. And for example, in this tooltip, it will be much more faster. And in this use case, we have project and how many percentage have we done in this project. And I won't go to 100% just for the use, just for the shows case here. I would go with 10. So that's to say, if we have 87% done, I say I would have 8 bars because it's not set 9. So I will use a floor function for that. If you haven't used the floor function, that's something you can do. So 8,7, it will take 8. And then I will need the new calculation. I say bars and make that big for now. And for that, I will introduce in a space function and the space of how many progress bars is in here. If I put it here, you don't see anything. What space function is doing is it gives the number of the spaces for x number. So here, if I have 5, that would be 5 spaces in here. So if we know that already, I will go ahead and replace. Go to the end. 1 space with 1 bar. Where's my going here? And if I hit applied in here, you will see the number of the bars. So you don't need to have a parameter of 100 bars. And then I want that to go to the end with 10. Make that bigger. And then copy this one. Plus. And I want to count up to 10, so 10 minus. If I hit applied, it will fuse in. So it's very quick and easy, and you can use that as a dimension as well. And if you want to make that more colorful or format that a little bit, what you want to do is to separate these 2 functions into 2 different calculations. And if I have that separate already, I can put in the text. And then I can go in here and give that different colors. So that is Heidi colors palette. I will try it in here.
Don't judge.
So yeah, so there's a different ways to do that, and it's quite quick and nice. For the next one, we have a tables, and very often you need to show the tables. And now I will show you some tips to make those tables more look nicer. So first of all, you can hit Control, Shift, and B to resize the table to make that bigger, or Control B to make that smaller. You can also do Control and the arrow in different direction to resize the tables. And then sometimes you want a little bit of the space between the things in here, the part. And for that, I will bring in the totals for subtotals. And if I right-click in here, go to Format, and actually you can rename the totals to anything, for example, just to show you that it works. You can rename to anything, but I don't want to show anything in here. I will have that blank. And also for the part here, if I click on that, and if you have the tooltip on, you will see automatic. And if I hide that, I don't see anything, and it will be a blank line to separate the part. And there are different options that you can do it here too, but I will save some of the clicks and show you the end result, so that will be the same table, but now it looks much more nicer. For the next tip, we have a map in Tableau dashboard, and we have the background colors in here. And I don't want the white color to be here because it doesn't match. So now I only have a map, but normally you have some other tasks as well. How can we do that? So some people will go to Format and look at the that here, and then put this to none. It doesn't do anything. So where the place where you should look at that is in map and background layers. And I want to untick base, so we don't see the base, the white things anymore. So sometimes it may be useful for you. And to end my set, I would like to talk about the coordinates in Tableau. So here you have a set of x and y, like what you saw in some mathematics lesson before. And if we put that in a scatter plot, we will have something like that. So that is the thing we all know, and we can use that to make some fun things in Tableau. For example, if you write a shape in here, so that is the thing I quickly put in Excel just to show. And you will know that for the element in here, we have x equal 4 and y equal 1. For that here, x equal 7 and y is equal 6. So just to show how you can find out the coordinates. And then I want you maybe to have something to take away today. Think of if you want to do an advent calendar for your friends and families. Maybe that is a little bit late for now, but maybe for next year. I will have to imagine in my head what should that look like. So if I want to have that in a shape like that, I will draw it, and then I will have to write down all of the x and y coordinates. That would be 1, 1. In this here, I will have x equal 11, y is equal 3, and the same repeat for all my 24 days. And then if I put that in Tableau and plot that, I will have something like this. So that is the scatter plot we saw before. And now I want to replace the dot with custom shape. And then we have different shapes. So, but you need to prepare the shape before and then make that bigger. That a little bit look like an advent calendar now. And then you can have a tooltips to write the everything you want to write as a surprise. So if today is not that the date of the advent, then come back on this day to see the surprise. Else, if today's is past that already, then the surprise of today is something. So if I put that in here, I will see that all in the tooltips. And then if I put everything in the nice background, we will have an advent calendar. And then you will need to prepare the surprise for every day, but that work. And then if you want the other shape for that, we can think of that as well. So if I want the G, I will need to imagine that in the head and then say, what is my coordinates for x of the elements? And then I can do the same and put that in Tableau, and then I have the other shape. Or maybe you want to apply the trick with some more complex image, and then maybe you need a little bit of the help outside Tableau or to find out the coordinates of what you want to do. And then in the end, that could be something like that. So that is sometimes what you see in Tableau public, but in the end, it's just the x and y coordinates. Or maybe you are an artist and you want to plot everything by yourself. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm getting old, so I need to take off my glasses. So here we go. You probably have made these beautiful visualizations before. You have multiple measures, you have measure names and measure values. Problem is that we have something in percentage, something in the thousands, and something over here in the hundreds of thousands. So the color legend will then go from 0, or the percentages, up to the 400,000, and we don't see the variation now in the percentages. But as long as we have measure values on color, right click is always your best friend, and then we have this use separate legends. When I do this, you see that I get 3 separate legends, color legends as well. The percentage is going from 12 to 18, and then quantities is from the thousands, and we see the variation. All of these can then separately be changed, so you can have separate colors for all of these measures, but don't use colors just because you can. I mean, it might look a bit bad if you have too many. So I'll continue with this same example in here. See that I also have a filter on my measure names. Problem is that I also have count of orders, I have profit ratio, but that's not in the view, and I don't want my end users to filter on those measures that is not supposed to be part of this this chart or this analysis. So I can't get rid of these, but I can right-click on my data source. I can duplicate the data source, so I have a copy of it. Then I'm right-clicking again. I'm replacing now the data source. And the good thing here is that we can replace current worksheet only. We don't have to change for the entire workbook. Thank you, Tableau, for adding that one. So now I'm replacing the data source. Nothing fancy is happening. It's just the same chart, but now with only these elements in here. So the trick now is to go into hide all unused fields in this new copy data source. And on the right-hand side, I only see the measure names that my end user should filter on. No profit or count of anything. But what if I also would like to change the order of these? Have you seen, maybe if I put, for example, delivery mode on color, whenever we have a color legend, we can always drag and drop and change the order in here. So that's fun. But, and you have the set, this is the German keyboard, so that's the set. If I would like to put sales in the beginning in my filter, I can't drag and drop in here. If we right-click again on measure names, we can go to default properties, we can go to sort, and in the sort we do a manual sort. So I'm going to put sales in the top, discount in the bottom, and you see on the right-hand side, it has now also changed the order, if you would like, not for it to be alphabetically. We've seen some functions earlier from Jung and Heidi. I'm going to show you a couple that are not documented but supported in Tableau. Why? Ask someone else. But in this view, I'm looking at a nice little box and whisker plot. We have this different type of categories, but we don't necessarily see how many dots are in each and every category. We can click on each of them, and then on the tooltip, if I'm just patient enough at least, if I then also zoom in. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to go into that product. Sorry about that. If I do it again, on the tooltip, and then oh no, I'm too fast or too slow, I don't know. There we go. So when you, on the tooltip, you get the number of items selected. So we see we have 251 in envelopes. On paper, we actually have 1,200 or something, but we don't really see it. So I'm going to create a ad hoc calculation. You probably have done this a couple of times. If you just are a bit too eager to click, then you double click on this or you double click on this. You see that you can actually go in and do something with your calculations. If your sale is not doing too well, you can then multiply it by 2 or something and it looks way better, right? But please don't do that. But you can also create new calculations. So I'm going to create a new one called random. And see that when I'm start to write this, it doesn't pop up on the IntelliSense when you do min, max, sum and everything like that. But when I do random and I put in my parentheses in here, suddenly it turns blue. I click enter, it works. So the random function gives me now all these dots in here, has a value between 0 and 1, just randomly. Now we also see the spread a bit better. So now we get a jittered box plot in here. The axis looks horrendous, so we right click and get rid of that one. And then we can have a look and see that we do have more over here in paper, even though we don't see all of them, but we see the spread a bit better. And here's also a tiny tip. When you click on any tooltip, as long as you have a dimension in the tooltip, you see that there's an underline in here, meaning that if I will check if Bill has purchased something else across the data or this order ID or machines, it highlights everything. If that doesn't work in your setup, just remember in the tooltip, there is this allow selection by category. If that is not ticked on or off or on, I guess, then it doesn't work. I'll continue with the same chart. And now I'm going to move my sales to size. So the size of the circle is how much the sale is. I can make it a bit bigger. Really doesn't look nice yet. But now I'm going to use index function. Index is documented and supported. So when I do this, Looks amazing, right? But I'm still on the verge of doing something. The index gives you a value from 1 till however many dots you have in the view. And if you pay attention to the index, it's a table calculation. So we do have this triangle indicator. So I need to make sure that I compute using the right scope and direction. So I'm going to do an index for each customer inside of each and every category. So now I have the random to split them or spread them a bit apart. I use the index to put them from 0, customer 0 down here, or 1 till whatever number we have. It doesn't mean anything other than that you get this. Not even sure what this Neil, what's this chart called? Is it a name? No.
Just a bar chart.
Yeah, a fancy bar chart. But there is a whole lot of other unknown or undocumented functions. All the ones in blue, they work. The ones in yellow or orange, those are duplicates of existing ones. This workbook will be on Tableau Public, by the way, and we're doing this quite fast, so you can look at the workbooks later. The red ones, you can use them, but they break Tableau, so why do they even exist? So we looked at, or Heidi used the max function earlier. So I can go in here and try to figure out the max number of some of my measures in here. I'm just going to put them in there. So I'm going to create a calculated field, and I put in max. And then we see when I scroll in here a bit, you can only put in the max of one value or of two. But I would like to, what is the max of discount, profit, quantity, and sales? I can do a max of, let's do this then. Drag and drop, of course, comma, and then this one. So if I now would like to do the max of another one, I need to do a new max, where I do max of this plus then the next one, and then you bundle these to have this huge calculation. But undocumented, greatest, what is the greatest of all? So now I have these two, or I can even be, I tested this yesterday, and that's even because I'm also a bit lazy. If you select 4 of these, and you just drag them in here, you even get the commas. So now it says greatest of all these 4. I say OK. It shouldn't be called calculation 1, but I don't bother. It gives me the biggest number of all of these. So if you need to compare multiple, you can use the undocumented greatest. Another one is like. So I'm looking at the same delivery mode. And then if I would like to create a calculated field, and then I can say, I'm just going to zoom in a bit here again, like. You see that it doesn't pop up on the IntelliSense, but as long as I add the parentheses and start writing something or put in delivery mode, I can say, you see I have first class, same day, second class. I would like to see, is there a pattern matching something with class? Then I can say percentage. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, this German dashboard. Why are people using this? Percentage class, and then end parentheses. I say OK. I drag this one in. I get a true false or wachten falsch. I don't know. And you can also say not like. So instead of like, you can do the opposite way as well. So those are some of those undocumented tooltips. Tooltips. Tooltips is the next one. I'm going to talk a bit about tooltips. I know that Andy doesn't like them because they're so slow. So, but we have the categories in here. I also have a viz of my subcategories, and I have a top 10 for profit and sale. And I have a empty one with just some formatting in here. So when I go back to my first one, I go to my tooltip, and then I insert the sheet of viz 2. I'm just going to make it a bit wider, if I manage to click on it. There we go, 800. So that's not rocket science. That's fine, it works. Then I go into the tooltip again. I'm going to add in the other ones, the top 10. So insert viz. That should be then viz 3 and viz 4. problem now is that, well, it's slow, but ignore that, but it's also underneath each other. I would like the top 10s to be next to each other, and I would also like to add a divider line. So back to my tooltip. Since this automatically adds a break in here, I'm just going to delete this, so they're next to each other. I'm going to also add in my new divider line in here, with 5, and that should only be like 10 pixels tall, like this. And it should be, and it should also be wider, should be 800 wide. The problem is that I also would like to have a divider or another divider line in here. But have you seen, oh, that's a bit too big. 800. If I would like to insert that divider line again, it's not selectable. So should I duplicate it and then create a new one? Or inside of it, we can cheat a bit in Tableau in here, so we can actually just copy paste it like this. And then we have the vizzing tooltip with some divider lines as well. And then we are looking at the same data in here. You see that it has 331,000 in phones. If I now click on first class, because I have a filter action in here, it still says 331,000 because it doesn't filter across. So one tip here is I'm just going to make, because the screen is a bit weird, make it a bit smaller. If we take that vizzing tooltip, we drag it in floating. We make it smaller, just move it outside of the dashboard, meaning that when you publish it, it won't show. You can even change it to 1 × 1 pixel. You see now that the filter is also working across the tooltips. We talked about axes before here as well. Should we go from 0 or should we not? This is the 100-meter records for men running, and it doesn't. Well, it looks like they're running faster, but we really don't see when there was like a big or decrease in the speed. So we could go over here and right-click, edit the axis. We can not include 0. And suddenly we see that, oh, there has been some really big variances. And they will never be able to run at 0 anyway, so we don't need to have 0. And every time I talk about this and present it, then I say, but how should the end user know that we don't start at 0? So the original trick is to put it into dashboard, take a floating object, and maybe add in a couple of these. But then I saw a blog post by Johan was it last week, Johan? So this is all honors to him. So what he did is to right-click, of course. You're going to add a reference line, and the reference line should be the minimum. So you see that it's all the way on the years. We don't need any calculations. We don't want a label, but we do want to do a custom with these two. No recalculation and nothing like that. Say OK, but it still doesn't look exactly, it doesn't match where I want it to be. Right-click, format, and then we do alignment. We switch it around and put it in the middle. And if I zoom in, we have a nice little breaker in there. Thank you, Johan. Two more minutes. So I co-lead the Data plus Maps, the user group. There's a meetup next week, virtual. So if you love maps, please sign up and join. We looked at some maps before as well. I only would like to filter for Norway because that's where I have my data, which is fine. But we still have those damn Swedes there. I don't like the Swedes. Those are our nemesis. Peter Jönsson is from Sweden. So I would like to get rid of Sweden and Finland and just focus on Norway in here. So I'm just going to go get rid of that. Maybe I'm just going to add in first some cities in here on a new layer. Have you experienced? No, it actually works this time. That's fine, because sometimes when you put in, oh sorry, that was not the city. That's why it did work. Oslo actually exists in the US. That's because Tableau thinks everything is about US. We need to add in the country as well. So now, how do I get rid of Sweden? What we should have done many years ago. We go to background layers and we just wash out Sweden, and Norway is there, glory behold. Last tip about maps. This is just a fun one. Have you ever looked at a beautiful map like this and then, why should we have latitude and longitude in here when we have the shapes? You can drill down country, states, and regions as well. Then you can do a pop quiz with your friends. Where is this country? Where is this region? So that concludes 275 tips, I think, or something today. Hope you learned something, and see you next time.